Robin Williams stood at the microphone at his daughter Zelda's wedding reception, and for the first time in his career, he couldn't make a joke. The man who'd made millions of people laugh for 40 years stood there crying, holding a piece of paper with a speech he'd written and rewritten 17 times. What he said in the next 8 minutes made 200 wedding guests cry, not because it was funny, but because it was the most honest thing Robin Williams ever said in public. It was October 2013, and Zelda Williams was marrying her longtime partner at an intimate ceremony in Napa Valley, California. The wedding was beautiful, elegant but not ostentatious, filled with close friends and family, the kind of celebration that felt personal rather than performative. Robin had been dreading this moment for months. Not the wedding itself. He loved his daughter's partner, was thrilled they were getting married, and had helped plan every detail of the celebration. But the speech, the traditional father of the bride speech that everyone would expect to be hilarious, memorable, vintage Robin Williams. The problem was that Robin didn't want to perform at his daughter's wedding. He wanted to be real. But being real terrified him more than any audience ever had. Robin had started writing the speech 6 months before the wedding. The first draft was exactly what everyone would expect. Jokes about his daughter as a child, impressions of her teenage years, funny stories about meeting her partner for the first time, callbacks to his famous movie roles.
It was good. It was funny. It was classic Robin Williams material. He hated it. So he wrote another version, and another, and another. Each time trying to find the balance between humor and honesty, between entertaining the guests and honoring his daughter, between being Robin Williams the performer and Robin Williams the father. By the night before the wedding, he'd written 17 different versions. None of them felt right. His wife, Marcia, found him at 2 a.m. sitting at the desk in their hotel room, surrounded by crumpled papers, staring at a blank page. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I don't know how to do this," Robin said. "I don't know how to give a speech at my daughter's wedding without hiding behind jokes. But I also don't know how to be honest in front of 200 people without a safety net." Marcia sat down next to him. "What do you want to say to Zelda?"
"Everything," Robin said. "All the things I've never been good at saying. How proud I am. How scared I've been. How much I've learned from her. How watching her grow up has been the greatest privilege of my life. How terrified I am of losing her to this new chapter, even though I know that's not how it works." "So say that," Marcia said simply. "I can't just say that," Robin replied. "That's too raw, too vulnerable. People expect Robin Williams to make them laugh, not to fall apart in front of them." "Robin," Marcia said gently, "tomorrow isn't about what people expect from Robin Williams the performer. It's about what Zelda needs from Robin Williams the father. And I think she needs to hear the truth." Robin sat there for a long moment. Then he picked up his pen and started writing. Not a performance, just the truth. The next evening, at the reception, Robin sat at the head table watching his daughter dance with her new spouse. She looked radiant, happy, so grown up that it physically hurt him to look at her. The DJ announced it was time for the father of the bride speech. The room erupted in anticipation. Everyone knew Robin Williams was about to speak. People had their phones ready to record. They were expecting a show. Robin stood up, walked to the microphone, and pulled out the piece of paper he'd written at 3 a.m. that morning. His hands were shaking. He looked out at the crowd of 200 people. Family, friends, colleagues, people who'd known him for decades, and people meeting him for the first time. All of them waiting for him to be funny. Robin took a breath and started speaking. "I wrote 17 different versions of this speech," he began. His voice was quiet, not the big performance voice everyone expected. 17 attempts to say something meaningful while also being entertaining. Because that's what I do. I entertain. I make people laugh. That's my job, and I'm good at it.
He paused, looking down at his notes. But tonight, I'm not here as Robin Williams, the comedian. I'm here as Zelda's dad. And as her dad, I need to say some things that aren't funny at all. The room went completely silent. This wasn't what anyone expected.
Zelda, Robin said, looking directly at his daughter, you are the best thing I ever made. Not any movie, not any performance, not any award. You are my greatest work. And you're not even my work. You're your own person. And you became that person despite me, not because of me. Zelda's eyes were already filling with tears. I've spent 30 years of your life trying to make you laugh, Robin continued, his voice starting to crack. Because that's what I know how to do. When you were sad, I did voices. When you were scared, I did characters. When you needed your father to just sit with you and be present, I did impressions instead, because being funny felt safer than being real. Robin had to stop for a moment. He was crying now, not trying to hide it. I'm sorry for all the times I performed instead of being present. I'm sorry for all the times I deflected serious conversations with jokes. I'm sorry for being better at entertaining you than at truly seeing you. The wedding guests sat in complete silence. Several people were crying. This was not the Robin Williams speech they'd expected, but everyone understood they were witnessing something extraordinary.
But here's what I want you to know, Robin said, wiping his eyes. Watching you grow up has been the greatest education of my life. You taught me that being strong doesn't mean never being vulnerable. You taught me that asking for help isn't weakness. You taught me that it's okay to not always be funny, to not always be on, to just be human. He looked over at Zelda's new spouse. And you, Robin said, pointing, you're getting the most extraordinary person I've ever known. She's brave when I've been a coward. She's honest when I've hidden behind humor. She's real in a way I've spent my whole life trying to learn how to be. Robin turned back to address the whole room now. People ask me all the time what I'm most proud of in my career. They expect me to say a movie title or an award or a performance. But the truth is, I'm most proud of the fact that this incredible young woman still wants me in her life despite all my flaws, still loves me despite all the ways I've fallen short as a father, still calls me when she needs advice, even though half the time I give her comedy routines instead of actual wisdom. The room was filled with the sound of people trying to cry quietly. Zelda, I look at you, and I see everything I wish I could be. You're courageous enough to be vulnerable. You're strong enough to ask for support. You're confident enough to admit when you're struggling. You're all the things I've spent 40 years in therapy trying to learn. And somehow you figured it out just by being yourself. Robin's voice was barely above a whisper now. I used to think my job as your father was to protect you from pain, to make you laugh when you were sad, to distract you from anything difficult. But you taught me that my real job was just to be there, to witness your pain without trying to fix it, to celebrate your joy without performing it, to just be present. He looked down at his paper and then folded it up without reading the rest. I had more written, but I think I've said what matters. I love you, Zelda. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful to be your father. And I promise that in this next chapter of your life, I'm going to keep working on being present instead of performing, being real instead of funny, being your father instead of being Robin Williams. Robin raised his glass. To Zelda and her spouse, may your marriage be filled with more honesty than performance, more presence than distraction, and more real love than either of you can imagine. The room erupted in applause. But it wasn't the kind of applause you give to a good performance. It was the kind of applause you give when someone has just been courageously vulnerable in front of you. Zelda stood up from the head table and walked to her father. She was crying so hard she could barely see. Robin met her halfway, and they held each other while 200 people watched and cried along with them. When they finally separated, Zelda took the microphone from her father. "I need to say something," she said, her voice shaking. "My whole life, people have told me how lucky I am to have Robin Williams as my father. And I am lucky, but not for the reasons people think." She looked at Robin. "I'm not lucky because my dad is famous or talented or can make anyone laugh. I'm lucky because underneath all of that, he's a person who has always tried. Even when he got it wrong, he tried. Even when he hid behind jokes, I knew he was trying to connect. Even when he performed instead of being present, I knew he loved me."
Zelda wiped her eyes. "Dad, you just apologized for being more performer than father. But I need you to know that I never needed you to be perfect. I just needed you to be you. And you have been. Always. In all your messy, complicated, funny, vulnerable humanity. You've been exactly the father I needed, even when you thought you were falling short." Now Robin was crying harder than before. "I love you," Zelda said. "Not Robin Williams the comedian. Not Robin Williams the actor. Just Robin Williams, my dad, who wrote 17 versions of a speech because he wanted so badly to get it right for me. That's the dad I'm lucky to have." The reception lasted several more hours, but people later said that nothing else that happened that night mattered as much as those 8 minutes when Robin Williams stopped performing and just told the truth. Videos of the speech didn't circulate online. The guests, sensing the sacredness of the moment, mostly kept their phones in their pockets. A few people recorded it for personal memories, but it didn't become a viral moment. It remained what it was, a private truth, spoken in public, witnessed by people who understood they were seeing something rare. Robin's friends later said that speech was a turning point for him. For the first time in his public life, he'd been completely vulnerable in front of an audience without using humor as a shield. And instead of rejection or judgment, he'd received love and acceptance. In the months after the wedding, Robin talked about the speech in therapy, about how terrifying it had been to be real instead of funny, about how surprised he was that people responded to his vulnerability more powerfully than they'd ever responded to his performances. "I spent 40 years thinking people loved me because I made them laugh," Robin told his therapist. "But at Zelda's wedding, I couldn't make jokes, and people loved me anyway. Maybe even more. It's making me rethink everything." Less than a year later, Robin Williams died. When people talked about his legacy, they mentioned his movies, his comedy, his brilliance. But the people who were at Zelda's wedding talked about the speech, about the 8 minutes when Robin Williams was just a father, loving his daughter, with no performance, no deflection, just pure, vulnerable truth. Zelda has never shared the speech publicly. She's been asked many times, for documentaries, for tributes, for memorial retrospectives. She's always declined. "That speech was a gift my father gave me," she said. "It was the moment he showed me and everyone in that room who he really was underneath all the performance. That gift doesn't belong to the world. It belongs to me and to the people who were there to witness it." But she has talked about what the speech meant to her, about how it gave her permission to be imperfect, to be vulnerable, to stop performing in her own life. "My father spent his whole career making people laugh," Zelda said in a 2015 interview. "But the greatest gift he ever gave me was showing me that it's okay to stop performing, that being real is more valuable than being entertaining, that the people who truly love you don't need you to be funny or impressive or always okay. They just need you to be honest." That's the legacy of Robin Williams' Father of the Bride speech. Not the jokes he didn't tell, but the truth he did. Not the performance he could have given, but the vulnerability he chose instead. For 8 minutes, Robin Williams stood in front of 200 people and was completely, terrifyingly, beautifully real. He didn't make them laugh. He made them feel. He didn't entertain them. He let them witness his humanity.
And in doing so, he gave his daughter, and everyone in that room, permission to do the same. The man who'd built a career on hiding behind comedy stood at his daughter's wedding and chose honesty over performance. The comedian who'd always used humor as a shield put down that shield and let people see him cry. It was the bravest thing Robin Williams ever did, and the people who were there will never forget it.